If you are a person that has some kind of change, realize that the perception that you're dishonest is there, and you are going to have to prove that it was an honest mistake or that there was some reasoning that is worthwhile.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
What is up? It is Nick, and this is an awesome episode of Ready for Pushback solo style. It's me and you hanging out talking about mistakes. So you got a mistake on your app, but you already have an interview date. What are you going to do? Well, what is it? What's the mistake? Man, I've had so many people coming to me, talking to me, asking me questions about this topic specifically, and people are terrified. It is a scary, scary thing. If you have an app in and all of a sudden you notice that there is a mistake on your app, what do? Well, before we get into that, let's talk about your app, okay? First off, you should have had my team review your app. If you had not done that, you would not have gotten this question. Hey, is there anything else you can remember that you might want to put on here? Do you have anything that you're not sure about that maybe we need to take a break and you dig into a little bit? Maybe you just missed that part of the conversation when you were talking to my team. You got your app, you put it out there, you've updated it, you've done a good job updating it, you got the call. Now, once you get the call, there are some things you can update, all right? You're still flying, you got some flight time you want to update, boom, let's add some hours on there. That is what I like to call a good news story. Maybe you move. Maybe you finally moved out of your mom's basement and you have an apartment now and you need to update that. Boom. Good news story. Hey, maybe you went to the doc and he said your heart is still beating and your glaucoma isn't flaring up or your hammer toe lets you walk. So he gives you a class 1 medical and you update that on your app. Awesome. Good news story. Those are just fine. Update those. No big deal. Nobody's going to say anything about it in your interview. Good to go. How about this? I got this call once. Hey, Nick, I need your advice. I have a mistake on my app. Oh yeah? What's your mistake? It's my GPA from college. Oh yeah? Yeah. So I had the wrong GPA on there. I had a 3.0 when I published it, but I was going to go back and change it. Yeah. What's your GPA, man? It's a 2.2. What a freaking 2.2. You'll go from a 3.0 on your app to a 2.2. What are you going to do? Tickets, right? Like I had a guy call, he had a ticket, a speeding ticket. It was like 90 something in a 55 that he forgot to put on his app. And it was in Virginia and he got arrested and spent the night in jail and it was not on his app. What are you going to do? Failures, man, failures. You guys and your failures, man. Like I've had failures. But you guys and not putting your failures on your app. Flight time. It was about 2 weeks ago. A guy calls me up. He had a 400-hour discrepancy, a 1,500-hour person with a 400-hour discrepancy. And that became a pretty big deal. I've had people call me up about arrests. I've had people call me up about all sorts of things. Mishaps like crash an aircraft, all those things. Military people that know FNAB or like whatever it is in the Air Force and the Army where you get your wings taken away. I've had those. So you get the call and all of a sudden you realize this thing, this scarlet letter in your life is there. All right. So a couple things. First off, like, is it one thing that's the problem? Is it a lot of things? Is it a handful of things, right? Because it makes a difference. If it's one thing, is it a big thing? Like a GPA is massively off, or you like barely have ATP mins and you don't have logbook for 400 hours of that. Like that's a big thing. Or an arrest is a big thing. Small things, maybe a ticket, maybe a failure, maybe like a test failure or something you're unsure about, maybe, but that's still kind of a big thing. It just leads down the path of like, why is it there, right? Think about that. You kind of need to know what's behind the curtain, right? So you have your app pulled by the company and they snap a chalk line, boom. And they grab a snapshot of your app as it is, and they have it printed out. And at the interview, you're sitting there with the interviewer and he has your most up-to-date app. And that latest app, they ask you, hey, look, you've got no earlier than like 72 or 48 hours before the interview. Make sure you update it one last time with all your hours so that everything matches up. And then they have that. If you add something onto your app, if you change something, it's highlighted so that the reviewer knows to take a second and digest what that information is. And so if you have made a significant change, first they're going to ask you about it and they're going to expect you to explain yourself. And your song and dance better be America's Got Talent good, because likely the first thing going through their mind is this person is dishonest. This person lied just to get the interview and they think they can tap dance their way into a job. That is what they think. All of them, every single one of them, that's what they think. So if you are a person that has some kind of change, realize that the perception that you're dishonest is there, and you are going to have to prove that it was an honest mistake or that there was some reasoning that is worthwhile. When you realize there is an error on your app, you have two choices. You can do nothing and roll the dice with it, or you can fess up and ask for forgiveness. So let's talk about rolling the dice. You could probably get the job. Let's say there were let's say it was a GPA thing, or let's say it was an arrest, or let's say it was whatever, and it blurred, maybe it was a blurred line or some kind of gray area. And I'll give you an example here in just a second. And you got the CJO, right? Maybe you didn't put a failure on there, and on the PREA, when they do the PREA background check after you get your CJO. So I said I'd give you an example. So here's my example. I was working at another airline and I was a union rep. And one of the things you do as a union rep is if somebody gets in trouble, you help them out. You try to understand what the left and right limits are and help them work with the chief pilot office to do what's right, hopefully keep their job. So this gentleman, he had gotten in trouble for something silly. And I had spoken to the chief pilot about it and it wasn't going to be a big deal. Well, we sit down in this meeting and there's another person from HR that shows up that I was not expecting. That person starts the conversation off with the fact that, hey, did you ever work for this other company? And the guy says, yeah, I worked for that company. And he says, did you ever interact with this person? He says, yeah, I absolutely interacted with this person. Then he says, did you get charged with all of these major crimes because of your relationship with this organization? And it turns out that guy had been arrested and charged with massive fraud, like crazy massive fraud. And he did not disclose that on his paperwork when he was hired. He neglected to disclose. In all fairness, it was expunged from his record. And he had gone through some things and paid lawyers and stuff like that to get it removed. But the digital trail had followed him, and the company was very upset about it. And they gave him the opportunity to resign in lieu of termination. And that right there is the threat. If you are going to neglect to do something because you're afraid, then you are going to pay the price at some point. And I'll tell you what, bad news doesn't get better with age. I've got 5 kids, and you've heard me talk about them before, and we talk about the fact that we have to be honest, even when it's hard. Because when you're honest when it's hard, I know you'll be honest when it's difficult. When you're honest when it's hard, I know it's easy and I can trust you when it's not. That's what I wanted to say. And so you run a risk of not getting the job, or maybe they toss you back into the pool of applicants and they give you another shot. But you definitely need to be upfront and you need to be straightforward. Let's go back to your application, right? You got your application pulled, you're ready for your interview, but there's a mistake. So how do you manage that? What do you do? Here's what you do. Get your pen. We're going to take some notes. First thing, you're going to find an email for the pilot recruitment and you're going to send them an email. If you don't have one, do a little Google search, start reaching out online, find some way to contact them and send them an email. We're going to be short. We're going to be concise. We're going to be conciliatory, right? Dear Southwest Pilot Recruiting, I'm scheduled to interview on June 2nd. As I was reviewing my application, I realized that I forgot to list a speeding ticket from January 5th, 2018 in Carson City, Nevada. I apologize for this mistake and wanted to bring it to your attention before my interview. I understand if this error rescinds my invitation to interview. I know that it is better to address it here than in the interview. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Nick Fialka. Send. All right? Send it. There's a good chance you'll get a response, and it will likely be a positive response. Let's say you get a positive response. I want you to print that out. Print that baby out. That's your golden ticket. Bring it with you. If you did not get a response, print out your initial email and bring that with you so that you can show that you tried. That is so important because that puts the ball in their court that somebody did not get back to you. The bottom line is, I want you to be upfront at the beginning. I want you to think. I want you to consider what you are putting out there. It is a direct representation of who you are as a person and who you are as a pilot. And so who are you? You're awesome. Your mom thinks you're a catch. You're super great to fly with. You've got great piloting skills. You're a master at crew resource management. You are all of it. You're all of it packaged up with a nice little bow and a tight suit. And that is who I want you to bring forward to the interview. So if you have a problem on your application, it is time to address it now. It is time to think long and hard about what you are saying. Think about, especially you older guys, man. Guys like my age, I'm 43. Like if you're in your 40s or your 50s, you've had a long career of driving fast. And so you've got to remember all those speeding tickets. If you have something that's hard to talk about, that you're nervous about talking about, reach out to my team. That's what we do. We've got people with 7 failures at major airlines. We've got people with resisting arrest. We got people with DUIs. We got like really crazy stuff. And it's okay to make a mistake, but it is not okay to lie about it. And it is important that you are able to be upfront. So best case scenario, you get your application review, you have my guys do it, and it's ready and it's crushing. Worst case scenario is you have to make a change. And if you do, you need to be conciliatory and you need to be straightforward about it. And you need to find a way to get in front of it early. Because once you get into the interview, it's too late. And there's nothing I can do. I cannot be in that interview with you. I wish I could. We'd crush, but I can't. So I think that's probably all I've got to talk about. I don't think I've got anything else. So I want you guys to be great. Like I say, we're all in this together. Get yourself organized, get it straight, make sure there's nothing left to chance. So next episode's an interview. It's going to be a really great one. And we'll see you over there, all right? Hey, before I let you go, I need to mention one thing because a lot of people are asking me, can you do anything? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. At Spitfire Elite, we will make more millionaires this year than Major League Baseball will make in the next 5 years. Our company actually does this. It's called Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting. And you can find us over at spitfireelite.com. Our clients, they call us the easy button for interview prep because everything you need to crush your interview is there in one spot. Whether it's application review or interview prep, all of it is covered. We've helped thousands of clients who are now flying at their dream jobs because our coaches gave them the one-on-one feedback that they needed to succeed on the biggest day of their life. The best part of Spitfire is our community. All Spitfire clients will get access to our private chats where they can work with each other and they can work with our coaches and get the latest information on all the airlines. If you'd like to make sure that you are 100% ready to go on your big day, there is only one choice. Everything you need is in one place, and I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go over to spitfireelite.com and check us out. Use the coupon code podcast and it'll save you 10%. And by the way, I will see you on the next episode. The statements made on this show are my own opinions and do not reflect, nor are they under any direction from my employer.